greatly appreciated. We encourage you to support small businesses in your community whenever you can. We purchased our spice selection from Salem Spice on Pickering Wharf and modern hard cider from Far From the Tree Cider House. I would personally like to thank all the people who have supported this program and got it running safely during COVID-19, especially Julie Arison Bishop and Deb Costa, who are here with me tonight as my support group. If you have a question or comment at any time during the demonstration, please type it into the chat and it will be read aloud for me. The goal of this demonstration is to connect with everyone, so do not be afraid to engage in the chat either with me or each other. Now, who's ready to get started? Hi, everyone. Oh, we're good. Great. All right. So I'm Kaylee. I'm Visitor Services Specialist here at the House of Seven Gables. I really love baking, which is what prompted me to start this program. And I wanted to share that with people, especially during this time when we're not able to really connect with each other very well because of COVID. So today we're going to be making samp, which it comes from the Narragansett word, where's that word? Nasam, which means sort of corn mush. And that's because it's made with cornmeal and water and you kind of just heat it up. So I'll show you how to do that. And we're also going to make Johnny cakes. Some of you might have heard it say did I say Johnny cakes or journey cakes? Johnny cake or journey cake. It really is a mystery of the origins of this corn meal sort of pancake, because some people think it might just be a slurred together word of different. I'm getting cues from beyond the wall. A slurred word. What is that word? I've lost things. Guys, the first time doing this, I'm just staring at a camera. Of a word called Shawnee cake. So Shawnee cake, Johnny cake, journey cake, kind of got mixed together. So our kitchen looks very different than what a colonial kitchen looks like. I don't know how many of you have come to visit the House of Seven Gables, but we have in our kitchen a massive central chimney. In this case, we have this massive stovetop, and it's not in the center of our visitor center, unlike in a colonial kitchen where the chimney would have been at the center of the household to keep everything warm. I have no issue being warm here today. I actually have a door open because it's so warm in this kitchen already, and I haven't even turned on the stove. So does anyone have any questions so far? Sure. We're good? Can't see anyone. All right, so I'm going to turn on the burner so we can sort of get that samp going. Like I said, samp is a combination of cornmeal and water. So that's going to be boiling so we can get the samp all ready, and then I'm going to make the batter for our Johnny cakes. Right. Let's get that. There we go. All right, so making your Johnny cakes, it's a mixture between whole wheat flour and cornmeal. So we're going to plop those in. So we have a half cup of whole wheat flour and a whole cup of cornmeal. So let's go on there. And then we have a half cup of sugar, just regular sugar. Our sugar is a little bit different than how it would have been in colonial times. Sugar in colonial times would have been more of brown sugar, which is what we're going to use for the samp later on. It wouldn't have been this nice white sugar that we use today. So we're going to mix that all up. So at the moment, it's just going to smell like flour. It's not as appetizing. You get a nice golden color from the cornmeal, which is nice. All right. And then we're going to mix in just some water. It's going to be 1 1/4 cup of water. It's going to get all mushy. It's not exactly the the things that we're making today aren't exactly the prettiest colonial food you could have. Yeah, and that just really, with the water, really brings out that flour smell, which is really in there. Okay, and now we have some currants. So we have a half cup of currants, which are just little raisins and really add a nice sweet addition to our Johnny cakes. Because up until now, everything's sort of, there's no sweetness. You need some sweetness. I tried putting chocolate chips in here at one point. Helped a little, but it wasn't the best. All right, and then we have all of our spices. Now, our spices are very important to making sure this tastes really good. So we have some cinnamon, nutmeg, and some ginger in there. And I've also included salt in this little thing, so definitely don't forget your salt. I forgot my salt once. It didn't go well. It was very flat. The flavors didn't come out as well. So the salt is actually a really key ingredient to making sure that your flavors really come out. Now you just gotta mix it all in. All right. Still waiting on that to boil. Watch pot never boils. Does anyone have any questions while we're waiting for the pot to boil? Well, currants are native to. I don't know. Do you want to check the package and see if the package does it? I never thought about that. Because I thought they're sort of like, because raisins are grapes, so they might have been. That is an excellent question. Does it say anything on the package?
Repeat the question back.
So someone asked where currants were native to, so where we get them from. I can tell you about the spices. No. Oh, all right. No, the ingredients are just currants. That's unhelpful. This one says it's a product of Greece and the USA. Sorry, I don't have a better answer for that. That's definitely something you're gonna have to research. All right, so. What was the question? So Johnny cakes actually, we believe, originated in America. And based on the different region you're in, that will depend on what it's called. So there's the Shawnee cakes, the Johnny cakes, the Journey cakes, and different kinds like that. The reason we think it comes from the United States or early colonial America is because of that cornmeal. There wasn't corn beforehand, and so we believe that the early colonists learned this recipe from the Native Americans when they landed here, because the Native Americans introduced them to corn, how to dry it out, how to use the mortar and pestle or other ways to be able to mash that up into the cornmeal and to be able to use it sort of like flour. So we have this boiling now. So we're going to switch gears over to the samp. So let me just grab my samp stuff. All right, so I'm going to move over to the stovetop. So once you got your water boiling, you're going to want to pour in your cornmeal. So you have a cup of cornmeal, and so as you're pouring, you're going to want to stir because it's going to start clumping immediately. It kind of, to me, seems like it's turning right back into corn again. So I don't know if you guys can see that. There it is. It's a nice golden color. I do like that about the cornmeal, even if I'm not personally a fan of the taste. So it's going to start to really clump. So first, when it first goes in, it's nice and liquidy, but then it starts to really absorb and become grainy. See that? Really clumps up like that. All right. Yeah, so samp is one of the easiest breakfasts to be able to make, which is probably why it was so popular during colonial times. So that's all stirred in like that. I'm going to turn off my heat so I don't burn my hand here. There we go. And now we're going to put in our 4th cup of brown sugar. So like I said, we're going to add brown sugar to this one. There we go. Then we start to get, like, because it's so warm, you kind of get a nice caramely smell, which is really nice. Kind of actually reminds me of putting during Thanksgiving when you have brown sugar on top of your sweet potatoes. So good. All right, so, but that's not enough. You need more spices because this is very bland. So then we're gonna add some more ginger, cinnamon, and nutmeg into here. Now these are spices that would have been traded on the Atlantic trade routes. Originally they would have come, so the nutmeg and the cinnamon, I believe, would have come on the spice trade. So, or from Asia to Europe, and then from Europe over to the United States. And then the sugar would have come from the Caribbean. All right. So, and then we have our samp. So I know it does not look like the most appealing thing in the world. I have tried multiple different ways of adding things to it. You can add different spices to this. So with each of these recipes, you can add whatever spice you want. So you can spice or ingredients. So it's been suggested that I put maple syrup in here, which I'm definitely going to try because I think that would be pretty good. Or maybe like I don't know how peanut butter would work. I'm really not sure because I'm trying to think. Cornmeal is sort of like your oatmeal, except with corn, but I don't think all of the ingredients will transfer as well. But you guys are welcome to try it at home to see how that goes. All right, so there you go. It's nice and neat. So we'll go and we'll work on our Johnny cakes now. All right. I actually think I need some more flour. Could I have some more flour, please? It's a little liquidy. And you just put it in my window. Great. I don't want it to be too liquidy because then it's gonna break apart a bit and it won't actually be a pancake, which is really what we're looking for. It's a pancake with sort of a crunchy outside, so crunchy rim.
Kaylee, one person said, what does samp taste like? Give it a taste.
Someone asked what samp tastes like. Now, samp hopefully tastes like whatever spices you put in it because it just sort of tastes like, let's see, it's very grainy in your mouth. So first off, you have that not so fun texture in your mouth. And then even though it's wet, it still tastes like dry corn, if that makes sense. If you can imagine sort of like sawdusty corn. But that's before you put the spices in it. So please, if you're going to try this recipe, put the spices in it because that's what they would have done in colonial times because they could afford to. And also it showed off wealth to have those great spices. And that's like the Turners that lived in the house of Seven Gables. All right, so that's looking a lot better.
Yeah. Just one more quick question for you, Johnny.
Yeah.
Does the Johnny cake keep well? Like after you cook it, is it something you can like wrap and reheat, or is it best fresh?
Is the Johnny cake best fresh, or can you reheat it? I think you can reheat it because it's supposed to be on the go, and you can even have it cold. It doesn't taste bad cold either. And since it is this sort of thick consistency, even when you've baked it and it's been fried in butter. So it really, it sticks together pretty well. So yeah. All right, let's heat up. Let's not make that mistake again. There we go. Not used to this oven, still working on it. All right, so we're gonna get that warmed up and move some of these out of the way. There we go. So one of the reasons that the Johnny cakes are my favorite of these two recipes is because you fry it in butter. And I really like butter. So already the Johnny cakes smell really good. You really can smell the cinnamon. But then you just make it all in butter, which is great. Wait for our pan to get nice and hot. And then take a good a good chunk, depending on your pan. I'm okay with more butter than less. For any of you who are on a diet for the new year, I'm sorry. There we go. Nice sizzle, and so it gets a nice buttery, a nice buttery smell in the air. Get that all coat there.
And somebody in the challenge said, what would people put on Johnny cakes?
On Johnny cakes, I don't believe they put anything on their Johnny cakes because it was sort of a grab and go. And you put something on it, it's very difficult to be able to travel if it's sticking to your fingers. And if you had to bring it to work, all right, then give it a nice little shake. There we go. And so those are going to start to get nice and crisp along these edges. And I'll show you that when I flip it over. And that's really the sugar and the butter there. Yeah, I don't believe they put anything on Johnny cakes because you have to, I did it myself because I just wrapped it in a paper towel and I brought it over to my desk and I ate it just like that. Really easy.
And another question was, if you were like the Maine, New Hampshire area, do you think people would put wild blueberries into Johnny cakes?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, whatever you can put in there to make it nice and yummy. All right, so these are a little different than regular. We're too hot. I'll change it. That got a bit too hot. We're gonna have some burns first, Johnny cakes. You know, the first ones never work out the best. There you go. Just get that nice butter there. All right. So you see this black part, so that's where it started getting really nice and the crispy edges. Bring that up to the camera. All right, so those got a little too hot. We'll try again. Make sure. Yeah, like I said, I'm still getting used to this. All right, here we go. It's a little better. Take those off. Pop them on our plate. Probably gonna eat them later. Don't forget your butter. I do not want this sticking to the pan. I also don't want to miss all of the butter involved. Come on. There we go. There we go. It's a nice sizzle. Can you guys hear that sizzle? Oh, we're too. Block that. My pan is way too hot. Shake it, shake. All right. Do we have any other questions over there? Any other questions? Sorry, guys. I can't see a screen. I'm just.
What food would you have with the Johnny cakes? Also, what food would you have?
What food would I have with the Johnny cakes? You could probably have some fruit with it. That's definitely what I would have now because it's sort of, it's not as bad as with the samp because the samp is like really grainy. But because the Johnny cakes have that wheat flour in there, it kind of softens it up a bit. So you don't get it as grainy.
And
don't do that.
And then people want to know if it's a breakfast food or something else. And what would you drink with Johnny cakes?
Yes. So Johnny cakes is a breakfast food. This is our breakfast session of Colonial Classics. And what people would have, they wouldn't have water because water wasn't safe to drink. They would actually drink cider, which we had some cider on our display here at the beginning. And something that I did not know before I started doing research is that they had hard cider, what we would qualify as hard cider today. It was fermented. This one comes from far from the tree. Thank you. And that's a really messed up one. That's a bad one. So they needed to ferment it in order to make it safe to drink, so even children would be having hard cider. It would just be slightly diluted but they needed to make it safe for them to drink. And if it wasn't fermented, it was just called apple juice. And so that was, apple cider was the most common drink in colonial America. And I lost my phone. Okay. All right, so there is our Johnny cakes. Sort of. I don't know. That's not much of a cake. That's more of a blob. All right, we'll put those over here. Nice plateful. I didn't have a bowl for the samp, but I'm really more of a fan of the Johnny cakes. So yeah, that is our little teacup on our nice fancy House of the Seven Gables plates that we love so much. Yeah. Are there any last questions?
Somebody wants to know, is it always 5 o'clock in colonial America?
No.
So see if there's any other last ones that pop in.
Are there any last questions? Oh, you gotta get to the computer to be able to see the questions.
Oh, what is in the cup?
What is in the cup? Oh, that's samp. So I made samp earlier. So you can see that. So there's some samp. It's the same stuff that we made over here. I just made it a little earlier in the night so you guys can see it. With samp, you definitely want to eat it sooner rather than later because it kind of gets stiff. And it doesn't come out of the pan. So yeah, sooner rather than later. Or just keep it on the stove top, keeping warm, stirring, so it doesn't burn. Yeah.
I don't see any other
All
questions.
right. So that's the end of the questions for today. And that's the end of cooking Colonial Classics for breakfast. I really hope you join us next month on February 18th for Colonial Classics, the dinner version. So thank you again, all of you, for coming tonight, and I hope to see you again next month.